We didn't even get into this juicy part yet, but like the videos that I was making for this guy for his channel is like I have all the back end stats for this channel, and all the videos were getting like 10,000, 20,000, and he's like, oh yeah, Peter, like the videos are doing well, and then I'm looking at all the views. I'm like, wait a minute, all of his fans are from Russia or India. I'm like, what the fuck? So when I say fast cars, fast money, as well as I'm selling you a course that ends in $9.97, was the first thing that come to your mind. In this exclusive Broke the Habit podcast, I will be talking about my own experience working for a fake guru, how I was essentially manipulated, lied to, and working in this weird environment that I did not know existed beforehand. Looking back, I was so naive. So in this exclusive Broke the Habit podcast, I will be bringing on my coworker, and we'll be sharing our own experience of what it's like to work for this fake guru world, and really opened my eyes when it came to digital marketing. So today I have my lovely pet here, coworker, and we're going to be talking about our own experiences working for a fake guru and what it was like working for the past year and a half. How did you find the position and job for this person?
Yeah, so I was coming off of about a year of doing freelance writing. And that was basically my first, I just graduated college and was just trying to get my foot in the door and get started making a career out of writing. So basically when I came across the job posting, it was a very much an entry-level position offering like...
Was it on Craigslist?
I don't remember if it was Craigslist, probably, frankly, because that's, where you go when you're
desperate as fuck. Yeah,
exactly. When your prospects aren't that great, beggars can't be choosers. And yeah, so it seemed, entry-level position, training provided, kind of clicked around on his, found the website and that kind of stuff. And from the outside, knowing absolutely nothing about like digital marketing and the whole 9 yards, is like, yeah, it looked like a good website, looked like Buddy knew what he was doing. Very slick design, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, submitted the resume and hold on. Now that you mentioned, I don't even think there was a resume. I think we submitted a video application.
Yeah, we had to do a video process.
That's right.
And send in like a 1-minute video of yourself about XYZ. And then do you remember, did you have like a Zoom interview beforehand or no?
No, I just got called, submitted the video and just got called in.
Okay, what the hell? Because you don't know this, but I had to go through like a Zoom interview first. And I remember him scheduling a meeting with me, and I thought it was his team, because every time he replied in his emails, it was always be like, team this guy. So I'm like, okay, it's not him. There's a bunch of people working before him. And then I remember jumping on Zoom, and I see this dude, and it's super backlit. I don't see a goddamn thing. It's just like this really cheap apartment, and you see this big window with like these like really shitty blinds, and all I see is a shadow, and I'm like, something was fishy. Anyways, so you go and get scheduled down to the office, and what was your first thoughts?
Yeah, we need to talk about the office. So
Did you think it was his? Do you think it was his?
Yeah, yes. So we get, I'm on my way downtown in my nicest getup I could possibly afford at the time, which wasn't much. And like, yeah, right in the downtown core. In a building that's brand new, like super tall high rise built next to a heritage, like the heritage building, and just
fancy ass elevators,
super fancy, just reeks of money, right? Get up to the floor or whatever, walk in, beautiful looking office, people buzzing around everywhere. Walk up to the secretary, tell her I'm looking for the interview with so-and-so. And she's like, yeah, he's not here yet. But just just grab a seat and he'll be here in a couple minutes in this boardroom behind us. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm sitting down, and they're getting beers out and people are buzzing around, and I think it was a Friday or a Thursday or something. And I was sitting there like, damn, it's like 1 o'clock on a Friday afternoon and everyone's shutting down for beers. Like, this is going to be a great place to work. Everyone's chatting with me and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I was 100% convinced that this was this guy's office and company. Like, this was the place I was going to be looking.
And when did you figure out it was a co-working space?
Yeah, quickly. So, and then the interview started. We get in the boardroom. So he's late, of course. Should have been like red flag number one. But when he does show up, you're there with the camera, and we get down.
Well, that's when I meet you for the first time.
Yes, that was when our our acquaintances began.
Yeah.
And I believe he had told me coming in, like, to the interview, that it was gonna be recorded.
Yeah.
Which I think we could probably say this. Like, I was desperate for the job at the time, so I was.
We all were. Every single one of us.
One of us. That's how he got us. So I was willing to say yes to anything, right? And yeah, after the interview went down, I don't think it was until I saw the room that it all clicked into place. And I don't remember if I saw it in that first interview or if that happened the first day I came in.
Just to segue for all the viewers,
yeah,
is that he had us interview in this big, like this 10-chair boardroom, this view of like the city. You look out through these window glass and you're like, wow, this is really fancy shit. And this is where I met my coworker, and I was actually filming this. And segue is that when I was actually hired for the position, I was like a full-time videographer role. And the funny part is I had to even record my own interview, and I'm like, what's going on? I had to put my camera at the corner of the table while he was there, and I have video of me on the internet somewhere signing paperwork. So you talk to him, and in the interview you see me, and then you shake hands, blah blah blah. And then what was your thought process afterwards?
Well, I mean, I will just say that one of the most like awkward things was like shaking your hand, saying hi, and then proceeding to try to absolutely ignore you for the rest of the process.
Like, don't mind me, I'm just in the corner. I'm not here.
It's like, I'm just ignore that guy with the giant camera pointing at you.
No, but fun fact though, I knew if they were like a decent person if they said hi to me, because there's like 3-4 other people that just completely ignore me. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, well,
so you passed the vibe check.
Excellent. And then yeah, from talking like through the interview process, the impression I got was so with him, it was, I know this came up so many times. It was hard to tell how old the guy was. But he did come across like someone who knew his stuff. He said all the right things. I got the impression I was going to like basically learn how to be a copywriter directly from this guy. He had an established team that he was already using, that he was just looking to expand. So I was going to have
have different offices in like New York and LA.
Yeah, exactly. And he was spread like internationally, and I mean, I guess international, Canada and the US. And then like I figured, yeah, there'd be some other writers and copywriters that I could work with and learn from and all this kind of stuff. So up until the actual work started, everything came off really well, with the caveat that I, knew absolutely nothing about the industry at the time.
Mm-hmm. And then you figured out he was my age and younger than you. Did I tell you? I think I told you. I was like, hey, guess.
Yeah, I know we played the guessing game. And I thought he was at least, I don't remember what I said, but I remember thinking he was at least as old as me, if not older, but not the case.
Okay. So then you go home. How do you think the interview went, if you remember? You're like, I scored the job.
I mean, with most interviews, I usually feel like I blew them initially, regardless of how well they went. I knew I wasn't bringing a whole lot to the table in the sense of like experience and stuff like that. Yeah. But like, I mean, so I don't know, as far as whether I thought I had got it or not, I wasn't wasn't super confident one way or another, but I know I heard back from him like almost immediately. And so there wasn't a whole lot of time to like think it through or, you know, apply for other positions or whatever. So I don't know what the what the caliber of the other people he was bringing in, or if I was just the first. But
I actually know the story to that. So there were at least 2 other people, and then he decided to bring you on as the third one. I think one thing I do have props for him is he's good at finding the right people, good people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you know
sort of.
No, you're right, because yeah, the team that we had there was actually a really good team of people for the most part.
But yeah, okay. So he emails you back. You get the job. Congratulations, X, Y, Z. And then your first day of work. Do you remember?
Yeah.
He brings you down. He meets you somewhere. Okay, tell us that.
Well, to your point with the whole like bring your own camera to work thing, that was one thing that was immediately like a red flag. Was like,
I was I was so naive. I'm like, I'm using all my money. I'm using all my equipment. And it's like, anyways,
yeah. So it's like you're gonna need to bring your own laptop if you're gonna work for me. And I was like, I don't even have a laptop. What I did have, because I was like super lucky, I think, was this Chromebook that I had like got from a bank, like as like a raffle prize or something. Like I opened an account and they gave me this thing, and that
became your workstation for the next year.
Yeah, exactly. And it ran Word and Google Docs, and that's all I figured I needed. So anyways, that was, I mean, that
bring that. And then you meet him in the lobby, or do you meet him in the
okay, so he brought me in, I believe it was the Labor Day weekend.
Because I had the follow-up, right? The follow-up.
Yeah, the first day actually in the office. Not
that is illegal, by the way, guys. To have your employees work on a freaking holiday. I did not know that. And he's like, I remember he asked me, another coworker, hey, can you guys come in? I'm like, it's a holiday, you know that, right? He's like, maybe just for half the day. But anyways, continue.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, exactly. Like, I think that interview was on like the first interview was on a Thursday or Friday, and then the Monday, which was a stat holiday, had me come in for like or just to get started or something.
You get into his office, which is next to the freaking washrooms.
Yes, right next to them.
And then your thoughts?
It's this tiny little broom closet. Like no windows, just this tiny little misshapen office. Like it's got a weird shape. It's not even like a totally usable room or whatever. And that was odd, but you know, just whatever. So I think we powered through signing forms. I think you were there recording it. And the whole time since this building is shut down, it's like sweltering hot in this this building. No air conditioning, no airflow, no one's supposed to be in. So immediately just uncomfortable. And then, man, the hammer really dropped when after we were done signing that stuff, and he's like, yeah, let me show you to your office. I'm like, okay, cool. So we could do this jog like around, like basically as far on this floor that you could go from where his office was to another mystery door. And as soon as that door opened, that's like the whole thing just fell apart. Because it was a just slightly bigger closet with
to give you like 6 feet. It was like 6 by 6. Not even 5 by 5.
I want to say it was like 5 by 6 or something. Because I think it was a little bit longer than it was wide, but no windows, just and it was me, you,
this other another coworker. So there's 3 people in this, essentially the size of like a restaurant bathroom.
Yeah, and the boss is talking about adding 2 or 3 more people to this room. And
eventually that happened.
That did happen. And at that point, immediately I knew that I had been totally hoodwinked, that this was not his office. This was a shared, a shared rental office space. His secretary was not his secretary. Those people I was chatting with were not his employees, and no one even knew who this guy was. So basically, what I should have done was just walked out right then and there, but I didn't. And that's why we're having this conversation.
So let's talk about, like, do you remember your first week of work?
Yep. It was a weird mix of like talking with the boss about like, I remember he basically handed me an assignment for a client and was kind of just did like, just do this, just go and do what you do, like do however you think is best, and then we'll go over it and he'll teach me what I've done wrong and stuff, right? Which is fine. So that's what I did. And basically the whole first week was a bunch of going, besides awkward recording stuff, which
So it's just to let the people know, for every meeting I needed content to film. So I would literally go on these private meetings and film him during his own client meetings, as well as all my coworkers' meetings. So that was really awkward.
Yeah, and like I don't know if it's worth going into like what the nature of his business kind of is. Like, as it was, my job description was laid out to me was like I was going to be writing two kinds of copy, basically, stuff for his clients and then stuff for his own brand building stuff, which is what all this video content you were filming was for. So in that, that made it wasn't any less awkward being filmed all the time, but at least there was like a business excuse for it, kind of deal. As we started doing more work and I started having more questions for him and more in-depth stuff, I don't even think it took the full week before I went from doing a kind of a one-on-one mentorship. Oh man, it's funny to call it that. Into immediately just getting Google links sent to me. And not even like a website from a Google search. I mean, like the Google search URL sent to me. I would ask him a question and that's what I would get sent back to me, was just the list of Google search results. And then in that first week, between talking with you and the other fella,
I remember like me and the other coworker is like, should we tell him or just let him figure it out slowly and start sprinkling like, hey, what do you think of the work?
Talking about the whole like working on a stat day thing, I'm pretty sure that came up in the first week with us, just chatting, where I was like, because I think I asked that question, I was like, so you guys were getting like paid or banked hours or time and a half or something for that, right? And you both were like, no. It's like, then what, guys? No. We have labor laws in this province.
I remember in that office, you became our employment lawyer.
Yeah, I was probably taking my,
because me and the other core did not know shit. We're so like naive and like so you first week you catch on, and then do you remember the week after you're like, I'm just gonna work for this guy and just kind of find out a new job, or I'm gonna stick it out for a couple months?
Well, I remember the first bit was rough in the sense that to make ends meet in this town, like I was essentially making minimum wage with him, and I had to have.
We both were.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure
I remember you had a part time, and I was still a cook, man. I remember like I had to still work on the weekends.
Yeah, exactly. I was still doing, basically doing like not freelance, but working for my old construction job.
Yeah.
Weekends after hours, just to make ends meet.
But speaking of wages, that was a good segue into the next portion. Is do you remember your first paycheck? Or should I rephrase that? Or do you remember the first payday that you didn't get paid?
Oh, I definitely remember that. I remember as far as the first paycheck stuff goes, like I remember the scheduling was really screwy.
Yeah.
I had worked for a lot of different folks and a lot of like even some sketchy people, but it was like by twice a month based on the day that you started your employment.
So it's like how it worked was like by the day that you were hired, it was like every 15 days, and there was only 3 of us in this closet, and it's like this person got hired this date, I got hired this date, and my coworker, my lovely dog over here, got hired this third date. So it's like we wouldn't get paid on the same day, so we had to like every single day it was different. We had to, I remember on the weekend we would make a bet. I'm like, So who's actually going to get paid this week? Because my payday was tomorrow, his payday was the next day, this guy's was the next. It was just a fucking clusterfuck. And then eventually it's like every time we actually did get paid, we didn't get paid. We would get paid in like checks. And do you remember the time that you got paid in change? You want to explain to folks what happened there?
Yeah, so there was one time where for I don't remember the context around it. I don't know if you do or not,
No.
but I do remember there was, I don't know if he just didn't have a check on him that day or if the amount was wrong or something. But yeah, I was one day I got paid by being handed an envelope basically full of small bills and literal change. And I was just my mind was absolutely blown. It's like, what? I thought you had an accountant. Like, you keep talking about having this accountant and like
Yeah.
this weird paid structure date thing you have set up is your accountant's doing. And now you're here handing me like no receipt for it, no pay stub.
We don't have no pay stub for
Pay
our
stub.
first year.
It's gonna no pay stub at all. And
Yeah.
I'm just this random fistful of cash.
Where's this number coming from?
Exactly. It's like, okay.
And then the funny thing is, like a year after we got these numbers, remember this? And around the fiscal year, so like April, and then we have to like go and figure out our own taxes. And then the number that he calculated for us via his third-party accountant was wrong. And then I was like, I was missing money. And it was such a freaking headache.
The whole I think the whole thing was a mess. If he had an accountant, like he wasn't paying him very much or something, or he was the world's worst accountant. But I'm like 95% sure, at least in those early days especially, it was just him, because none of that stuff made sense.
And also on the biggest factor with all of us is like he would never pay us. And even after, when there was like 6 of us in that 4x5 room, there's still weeks we wouldn't get paid for like weeks, and some people had to pay rent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like,
no.
Remember those days?
There was, because we used to have like a countdown timer and stuff like that for like, well, how many days is it going to be? Like, how many days late is it going to be this time?
That's like a week.
Yeah. Oh man.
2 weeks.
So many awkward.
Or it'd be like, oh yeah, that's what it was. How many times were the banks just closed?
Oh yeah, the banks, they don't do on weekends.
They don't do on weekends.
But soon to find out, you can freaking do direct deposit scheduling on the weekends after working for real companies.
Exactly. It was like I've had direct deposit for years before, and sometimes it might get delayed because of like a stat thing. Like that might happen like once or twice a year. But this was like every other week. There was some excuse why the bank couldn't deposit our money.
And then he would need to e-transfer each one of us individually. And he was like dumb enough to think that we wouldn't be in communication. So it's like I would get the first one in the morning, and then everyone else would slowly get their trickle of e-transfers.
It'd be so dumb. Oh man. Yeah, there was definitely no like payroll software involved or anything like that. This was just this guy I don't know, just trying to stay ahead of his financial commitments. Just ridiculous.
Yeah, man. It was like, okay.
It was the rep for the client who had called, and there was a major problem with the copy that had been like submitted or published. And the guy was like furious. Like, we're talking like, you're about to be fired from this client kind of furious. So the project manager gives our boss a little jingle to like, get in here on this call. To help us do some damage control, right? Now, normally this would be something I would be sweating about, except this was an established client who was like a really big name and a big deal. Our boss was smart enough to not have me working on that because I'm brand new. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go take a little break while I don't want to be in this meeting. I think, did all of us leave the office for that, or was it just me? I don't recall. Doesn't matter. So I went for, let their meeting finish or whatever. And I think I grabbed a coffee or whatever. And then
like, comes into the room.
Yeah, he came into the room. They start doing their damage control or whatever. And I'm standing outside. It's a shared workspace. The walls are paper thin. So I can hear everything that's going on. And he immediately throws me under the bus for saying like, look, I just hired this new copywriter and he's brand new and this kind of like just that kind of whole kind of 9 yards. And I'm standing there just like realizing what just happened. And so furious.
I remember you were so pissed. Like you walked out of that when you went home. I was like, I remember.
I literally went for like, I think at least half an hour. I like got out of the building and just kind of paced around.
You had to go for a walk.
Yeah. Paced around Harborfront, trying to calm myself down and really negotiate with myself on whether I just quit this job right then and there.
Yeah.
So then eventually I decided I wouldn't quit, but I would confront him about it.
Yeah.
And so I came back in and I did. I don't think I went immediately right into his office. I think I talked to you guys briefly first or something. But yeah, went over to him and went into his office and totally called him out on it. I basically was like, yo, I heard that. You know full well that I didn't do that. That I didn't write that copy. And gets on the defensive, like unbelievable, like, oh, well, no, I was just panicking. I really it was totally unexpected. He was really mad and I thought it was something you did. And then I called him a liar.
Yeah. Back seg, I'm like, was that the same week that I yelled at him for like me? I remember complaining to him and yelling him of like, there's no real business. You're using all my camera gear. Do you remember that?
I remember that. I think
it was like back to back.
It was really close because I think this came up with the KPI stuff, where like he was going to be evaluating your performance
on like videos like an output or something stupid
on factors that he was manipulating himself. So this guy.
Yeah. Okay, we didn't even get into this juicy part yet, but like the videos that I was making for this guy for his channel is like I have all the back end stats for this channel and all the videos were getting like 10,000, 20,000. And he's like, oh yeah, Peter, like the videos are doing well. And then I'm looking at all the views. I'm like, wait a minute. All of his fans are from Russia or India. I'm like, what the fuck? and they all spike up in one day and just die afterwards.
And sorry, yeah, it's like the views to like ratios were like off the chart, like shit you just do not see ever.
So I remember confronting him about it. It's like, you think your fans are real? Like, you think I'm dumb?
Because wasn't he like basing? He was gonna be like, well, yeah, we'll look at your performance based on like view time and how the views increase over time. And it was the stuff that he was buying himself to pump his own numbers. And as soon as
trying to trick us about it.
And I believe that's what triggered you. As soon as you figured that out, you were like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah, and then I remember yelling at him, and then like, you need to buy me a camera. Like, I'm using all my gear. Like, what the fuck is going on? And then it's the same week that my coworker over here yelled at him for fighting that stuff. So it was like back to back. And then I remember I had a one-on-one meeting afterwards. He's like, Peter, you know what? That's not professional, right? That's not how you should talk to people. I remember you had the same talk too.
Because he said the same, exactly that. Like after I blew up on him the next day, first thing I think it was, he calls me into the office and is like, exactly that. Like, that wasn't, you were really emotional. That wasn't very professional. And I remember looking at him and being like, you thought that was emotional? Like, that was me calm, man. Like the only reason I'm still here is because I settled down. It's like...
and the thing about that, the funny thing is, it's like, even though he like came at me like, yeah, like true, I was hella emotional, but guess what? Because of me, I got my camera like literally the week of. He's like, okay, I'm gonna look up the camera, send me the stuff, send me the camera, send me the computer, because we're all using our computers. And then I think thanks to me, I think I have some credit to this. Everyone else eventually got IMAX.
Yeah, and that's another one though. Like eventually, a lot of the stuff we did basically bully him into it. Be like, you can't run a business like this if you're trying to run a real business. And even then he managed to make the wrong move most of the time. Like everywhere that I've worked since, if they're supplying you with something, unless you're like literally working in design, it's probably going to be a laptop. And this guy, which makes sense, and this guy buys IMAX.
Yeah, I'm like, what the hell did you do with 6 IMAX now, dude? Anyways, we're jumping way ahead of the story. Okay,
Reel us back.
We yell at him. He gets the stuff back and forth. He throws his own employees in front of clients. So let's say, do you remember the time that we started to figure out, like, we started to question? I remember, like, we would stop working for him and taking him serious. I remember you would play, what is it? Not League.
StarCraft.
We play StarCraft for days, and I'm like, this is not a real job, man. Like, what's going on?
I know it really, like, there was a point where once I had gotten the ball rolling with a bunch of his client stuff, like his actual clients, we got to the point where he was trying to build up the content for his own website, right? And this was a lot of how-to digital marketing content.
Yeah.
So we all put together kind of a plan for figuring out what the site was going to be and what kind of content was going to be on it.
It was going to be this academy to learn stuff.
Yes, exactly. And so it made sense to start with the things that he had in-house already, which was going to be like video and copy.
Yeah.
So with the copy thing, he was like, okay, these are going to be like whatever the 8 different sections of copywriting we're going to cover. I'm like, sweet. You and me, boss, need to sit down and like you explain to me what this stuff is, and then we can put a script together. No, he wasn't having any of that. It was like, no, you go figure out what are copywriting best practices, how do you write for a landing page, what's a good what makes a good headline, et cetera, et cetera. And I literally, like I said to him, like, well, wouldn't it make more sense for, like, you're the expert here,
so-called expert. Yeah.
And then I believe after one of those meetings, I walked down from the boardroom, because he used to love to have all of his meetings in that fancy upstairs boardroom.
Yeah.
I walked down into our little closet and looked over at you and our other buddy there, and was just like, I'm not writing this guy's course for him. If he thinks I'm going to write his course for him, he is sadly mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out I was wrong, because I did end up writing a very small part of it.
Mm-hmm.
The only part of that entire academy that ever went live.
I remember like the videos, like he would film it as is. And then I remember he hired a project manager that eventually got more of his shit on top for us. But then I remember he was writing the scripts for his videos the day of, and they're so full of shit. And it just blew apart.
Do you remember the whole, like, his whole, like, you always want to be, what was it? You always want to be like the smallest potato in the room,
or something stupid.
Or wait, no, you want to be wait, that doesn't really make sense. And he was like having this conversation. He was like watching an edit that you made, like a finished video, and he's like,
I don't remember this.
He's like, what I'm saying doesn't really make sense, does it? And I think like you and me do this like side glance, like, you don't got to tell us, bud.
We eventually worked for this guy for a year and a half. There's a bunch of side stories from this. This is where I met my ex-girlfriend, fun fact. And we formed a good bond for hating this guy a lot. And we all slowly trickled, one by one of us. We eventually figured out that this guy wasn't all that he meant out to be. And it made me very cynical in terms of the digital marketing world. How eventually I remember his websites were exact copies of other people's. Everything was just like a drag and drop and steal. And what were your thoughts on this, of being him, certain salesman?
I mean, yeah, the guy is a snake oil salesman, and one of the big lessons from that is just to understand how easy it is to manipulate, like, how you appear from the outside online and stuff like that. Like, don't get me wrong, there's an entire market out there for like scam digital marketing strategies for digital marketers. Like, selling advice that doesn't work to folks within any industry is a business model, and we were basically a small part of something like that. And that is it's not easy to respect a boss when you realize that not only is he trying to like hoodwink his clients, but he's trying to do it to you too.
And there was I know we said this so many times, it was like, man, we're behind the curtain with you. You don't need to, like, we're
Pick your own employees.
Yeah, like we can see
we're doing the dirty work.
Yeah, we can see what's going on here, but don't act like we don't, or like we can't.
So on a more positive note, like, what did you learn, and has it helped you to where you are today?
Oh, I mean, that's like like most difficult experiences.
You learn the most from him.
Learn the most for them. And as bad as it was in a lot of cases, yeah, I definitely learned a ton. I learned how to actually do copywriting through, I mean, a lot of trial and error. Sorry, former clients. At least they slowly got better over time. But it definitely gave me the skill set I needed. Like, I picked up the skill sets and the the experience I needed to make that next step in my career. So that was great. I think honestly though, the real lesson was just, or the biggest lesson was what to look out for and what to in an employer, and what red flags are worth paying attention to and which ones like you should absolutely just turn around and run.
So how I equate this is like getting cheated on your first time ever getting cheated in a relationship. It's the exact same thing. It's like after you've been cheated on, you know how shitty that feels, and now you're a much smarter man or woman, and you can take that information moving forward in life. And I think for me, like, it's helped me because I got my next job. We all got our next jobs with whatever position because of that first gig, no matter how fake it was. And fast forward, the TLDR of what happened to this actual company is it went under. We all quit one by one, all of us, or we got fired. He lost his clients, his main ones. And then now this agency model doesn't exist anymore. Really weird, eh?
Yeah.
This global team just evaporated. To thin air. And all of our like freaking paychecks and where this money's coming from, it's like we don't know.
Nope.
So just to wrap things up here, if you could talk to this person today, sat right down in front of you, what would you say or do to him? Actually, no, what would you say? Look him dead right in this face.
Oh man, that's a good question. This is the kind of guy who, if I saw him on the street, I think I would pretend like I didn't recognize him or know.
Yeah, I remember asking you this.
God, I don't know how to answer this without like doing like massive segues, because I don't know if you remember this or not. I'm going to. Sorry.
Go for it.
When I was leaving, he like forced me into like I think it was like an hour and a half long exit interview.
Okay.
Where I just like let him have it. Basically, I told him I was professional about it because I was just so happy to be getting out of there. But it was like everything from like being sketchy with the pay to like, dude, when we're in a meeting with you, like when I'm talking to you in a meeting, don't be on your phone, to like this wasn't even like business advice.
It's on Facebook or something.
It was just like because I'm not someone who can tell anyone how to run their business, but I am someone who can be like, if you're in a meeting with someone, you probably shouldn't be browsing your phone while I'm talking.
Yeah.
You should probably show up for things on time. You should blah blah this and blah blah that. And then at the end of it, he was like, well, do you ever think in a couple of months you might be like interested in coming back or whatever?
That's a power move on his part.
And my answer, I literally laughed and was like, absolutely not.
I guess for me, what I would say is like, I don't know, because the thing with him is like, he's this like master manipulator type of person where he's really good at persuading people. I got to give it to him in that front, where it's like, no matter what you tell him, he's so delusional in his brain. It's like, it's in one ear, out the other. So it's like, even if I told him like, you treated your employees like absolute shit, and you have no idea of the things that you've done to us, I would just tell that deep down inside, I hope I don't think he's a bad person. Just something happened to him in his childhood. I have no idea.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, man.
I was just like, I wish him the best. And I hope he knows that he's not going to be able to pull this freaking trick on anybody else anymore.
Yeah, when you put it like that, I think maybe that is the one thing I would like to say to him is like, look, man, you're not cut out to be an entrepreneur. You're not cut out to be a boss.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's cut out for. Maybe it's just being a really aggressive salesman. Because like you said, he
sold us on the dream.
In the moment, he's one of those guys where you can sit down and be like, and you know, like you could go into a meeting with that guy,
Yeah.
any of us in any situation being like, until it got really bad and we had him figured.
Yeah.
But like if just Joe Schmo, like you'd go in and be a total skeptic and walk out of a meeting being like, you know what? I think that guy was right. Now
Yeah.
you might give it some more thought over the next 5 minutes and be like, wait a minute. But he is good at that. What he is not good at is what he's trying to do. He is just, you know, some of us are not, some of us are meant to do certain things and not cut out to do others. And that guy, yeah. Sorry, boss, you are not cut out to be a boss.
Yeah. And which is why that agency does not exist anymore. So
he was,
that's the end of that.
Yeah, exactly. He was frankly just lucky that he did hire people who were as both as good and as patient as we were, to have had it even lasted as long as it did.
So thanks, Bud, for coming on the show and sharing your alleged stories and allegories over here.
Anytime, my pleasure.
And I did want to talk, just to have an Easter egg just at the very end about a bunch of the weird shit that he did. Like, remember like him listening into our, like standing outside our door, and we had to like eventually like move offices eventually. And then our office was across from his office. And then he caught us like talking shit about him. Remember? or you catching him in our office going like, what the fuck? What are you doing here?
So there was when we were in the first closet, because we did eventually get moved into a closet with windows, which was really nice of him. But so actually, hold on. This is going to be a 2-in-1.
Unleash the Kraken.
Yeah. So to the one you're talking about, like I went to the washroom or something, right?
Yeah.
Just on like the far side of the office, like we were saying earlier. And when I came back, like we had to go, his office was right next to the washroom. So I was like, oh, he's not in his office. That's weird. So, you know, I was just walking around and then I catch him and he's literally like around the corner from the door to our office, just like standing there with a little lean on, like, you know how like literally how cartoons lean with like the hand up to the ear kind of deal. Doing that. And I like come around the corner and I see him and he sees me and he like jerks and it's like, oh, I was just looking at like the art. It's really nice. And like really awkwardly shuffles back to his office. I'm just standing there like, what the fuck was that? At which point I did what I always did, which was walk into the office and be like, guys, guess what I just got?
and I think we'll leave it on that note of fake gurus in the digital marketing world. It's like, yes, there is good people, just like everything, right? Just not, we can't put like a blanket statement and be like every person that's online is a phony, but you just got to be skeptical, not cynical. And we'll end it on that. Thanks, guys, for tuning in and listening to this exclusive Broke the Habit podcast. I hope you're able to take something away or laugh or just cry in my same misery. As for 2017 going into 2018, it was a tough year for me. And I noticed that I stopped creating. I started getting cynical. And I realized in the world where you look on the internet and on YouTube and you're like, people aren't who really they are in real life. And you know, you take everything for a grain of salt and you need to do your due diligence on everybody. And just because you like someone, you watch their content and you have a parasocial relationship with them does not mean you actually know who they are, right? That is not reality. This is the real world. The digital world is a whole nother scheme, right? And you have to take everything as it is for its face value and not be too diving deep into the internet and watching content will change your life. Has it changed people's lives with this fake guru world? Of course, you know, I'm probably sure that there's a lot of people that spent their money and got a good ROI and return on it, but there's also the dark side of the internet, right? And I'll talk about that in the next episode. My name is Peter. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, subscribe for the algorithms, because you know that's what YouTubers do. And if you want more, keep talking to me, shoot me a DM at brokethehabit. And thanks for tuning in, guys. Cheers.